Should you buy the Hellcat Pro in 2025? Now, I've owned and carried the Hellcat Pro for over a year now, and I feel like I've had a ton of time to compile and put together all of my thoughts for that key question. In this video, I'll break down everything that I think makes this handgun so unique, talk about some other comparable options out there, and give you my honest and genuine thoughts about what I do and don't like about this handgun after carrying it for a year. And for those that don't know, the Hellcat Pro is going to be part of Springfield's slimline pistol line, and it's really going to be that bridge kind of gap between a micro compact and a full-size handgun. It's going to offer a really nice balance between concealability, shootability, and a high capacity. And then you've got the extended base plate that is going to allow you to get 2 more, so a total of 17, plus 1 in the chamber. And in my opinion, it's going to make it incredibly easy to get a full grip on this gun. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I ended up opting for something like this and not something smaller. Now, the gun itself is going to be about 1 inch thick. It's going to offer a 3.7 inch barrel. And in terms of the entire lineup, Springfield offers the Hellcat, which is the micro compact, the Hellcat Pro, which fits right in between, and then the Hellcat Pro Comp, which has a ported barrel and slide to help reduce overall muzzle flip. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you from personal experience, if you're planning to buy this gun, I would honestly just recommend spend the extra 50 bucks and get the comped version. In this case, I opted not to do it, and I regret it just to have a slightly marginally better shooting experience when I take it to the range. And of course, there's pros and cons to having a port at the end of your slide and barrel. It will make it a little bit louder, but I think in this case, if it's something that you want to enjoy shooting and be able to control that recoil a little bit better, spend the extra 50 bucks. Now, I did purchase this gun myself from Academy. I spent 550 bucks. I got it when Springfield was doing their Gear Up promotion, which gave me a Viridian green dot, 3 additional magazines, and then a range bag. And honestly, the green dot was terrible, and so I swapped that out and put the Holosun 507K on it. And since people will ask about it, I did direct mount the 507K by milling down some of the lugs on the slide to allow it to sit lower. Because the Holosun is a modified RMSC mount, it doesn't actually fit directly onto the slide of the Hellcat Pro, which is meant for RMSC. So normally you would need a plate, or in this case, I just milled down the back so it direct fit onto the slide and gave me a lower 1/3 co-witness. I will also say that the out-of-the-box tritium night sights from Springfield are fantastic. I really enjoy them, and I actually like the U-notch sight in the back. I find it incredibly easy to shoot from iron sights, so you definitely do not need a red dot. I just like personally having one because I'm used to it from competition, and I just find it easier to use. Lastly, I will say one of the most impressive kind of specs about this gun is the adaptive grip texture. And I really like this a lot. I find that it is super comfortable. It allows me to get a great grip and purchase on the firearm, but it doesn't really unnecessarily rub up against my skin as I am carrying all throughout the day. And then I would say the largest downfall of this gun is largely going to be the trigger. Out of the box, it is kind of clunky. It's about 7 pounds, and so it's very heavy for this size of firearm. And I immediately purchased the M Carbo sear and safety springs, and that lowered the overall pull weight down to around 5.5 pounds. Personally, I would like it to still be a little bit lower, but of course this is for concealed carry, so I don't need anything crazy. In this case, I think it's fine. Now, after having owned this gun for over a year now, I've put around 750 rounds through it, which I know some people might think that is not nearly enough, but I've got other guns I like to shoot, and especially when I go to the range, I want to have something that I can have fun with. However, I do want to talk about my shooting experience with this gun because I see online quite a bit where people say that the Hellcat Pro is unusable or it's too snappy, and honestly, I would disagree with those comments. I think it is a perfectly serviceable gun. I think it's pretty reasonable in terms of its overall kick. I mean, it's a 9mm, it's slimline, it's designed for concealed carry, and I think with good fundamentals and a really strong grip with your dominant and support hand are going to help fix most of those issues that people may have with the Hellcat Pro. I feel like I'm able to string together multiple accurate shots in pretty tight groups, even though it is a small handgun. And I also think it's incredibly reliable. And in this case, in the 750-ish rounds that I put through it, I've never had a malfunction or any issues with it. Now, initially, I will say I did find that I was pulling shots a little low and to the left. I think part of that was because of how heavy the trigger was. And then honestly, it was just bad fundamentals on my part. And what I found helped correct that was just with my support hand giving more pressure to help kind of balance out my left and right hand and keep that slide racking forward and back. Of course, this is all subjective and there's definitely going to be better shooting guns out there. I also carry the Ruger RXM, and because it's a slightly bigger gun, closer to a Glock 19, I find that I shoot it a lot better. It also has a mag well, which is going to push my hand up against the trigger well. And so in this case, I find I typically shoot it more accurately and faster. But again, there's pros and cons with all of these different guns, and I do find the Hellcat Pro to be very shootable and enjoyable to shoot. I'm 6'1" and weigh around 185 pounds with a taller, kind of more ectomorphic style build. So for me personally, I find most guns somewhat hard to conceal. And in this case, that's kind of why I've tricked out my holster with a concealment claw and then a wedge to really help push that gun into my gut and prevent printing on those tighter fitting shirts. With that said, this is my primary setup that I have been using for summer months, and I also live down in Georgia where I was mostly just wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and I felt like I was able to conceal and print minimally, but let's be honest, most people will never notice if you are printing. People are way too busy looking at their phones and not being aware of their surroundings. Now, the holster I ended up purchasing was from Eclipse Holsters, and honestly, it's okay. It's fine. It does exactly what I need. I do feel like it is worn on the gun a little bit more than I was hoping for, but of course, a year of going in and out of the holster is definitely going to have some holster wear. And like I've already mentioned, I think having the concealment claw does help push the butt of the gun back into my side. And as someone that typically carries right around that 1 o'clock, almost 1:30 mark, that's kind of right where I've got a little bit of a natural V, and it just helps conceal anything that may print. Now, initially I did not have a wedge on this holster. However, after carrying it for a couple months, I noticed a couple of hot spots, and so I tried and I ordered some wedges off of Amazon for around 15 bucks. And honestly, I do think this has helped a ton. It has made carrying much more comfortable, and it also helps push the butt of the gun even more into my gut or into my side. And for only 15 bucks, I think the wedges are okay. Do a good enough job, but I found that the Velcro and the hot glue have come off now a couple of times and I've had to re-glue it. But for 15 bucks, I'm really not that worried. I still do find myself wanting something even slightly smaller, like the Canik Mete MC9 or the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. I think that would just allow for deeper concealment, and especially in summer months, having something a little bit lighter is easier to carry with gym shorts. So with all that said, let's answer that question of, is this worth buying in 2025? Now, of course, I don't know you, and I am by no means affiliated with Springfield. I'm just some guy that's bought this gun and can give you guys my thoughts and feedbacks about something that I have enjoyed. So with all that said, I do think the Hellcat Pro is a spectacular EDC option. I do think it strikes a really fine balance between affordability and giving you a ton of value and features while being shootable, concealable, and a pretty good overall package. When I was initially looking at this gun, I was also comparing it to the Canik Mete MC9, and at the time there was some reliability issues with the MC9, and there was also the Gear Up promotion from Springfield, which pushed me slightly over the edge to just purchase the Hellcat Pro. And I would say really the largest and biggest con, in my opinion, is just the bad trigger. I really am not a big fan, and I would say if you're looking to buy this, either anticipate swapping it out or changing some of the internal springs. Of course, you do not have to, but I just personally am not a big fan of it. There are other manufacturers that are going to have better triggers. So let me know down below, do you own the Hellcat Pro? And if you do, what sold you on it? And lastly, if you don't, what would you have bought instead? I'll see you guys next time. Bye.